haven't even started the new year in select board yet, you're young. You about ready, Shane? Yep.
We're going, we're gonna go.
Waiting for her to turn to 6.
Next step, basically.
No,
Yeah.
sit down.
This is a contract issue. That she needs to and get sued.
Yeah, she would have a bunch of things.
All right, Chris, got it? I'd like to call the select board meeting of Monday, March 18th, 2024 to order. Additions or deletions to the agenda?
I have an addition under old business, immediately following item A, would just to have some additional conversation on the short-term rental ordinance. And I have a second one.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. And I would also, I have an additional addition to the agenda under old business 11F, a discussion of formation of the South Londonderry Master Plan Task Force.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I assure you, they're timely, which is, I apologize for adding to such a large agenda already, but it needs to happen today, please. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to item 3, organization. 3A is elect select board chair and vice chair. I'm happy to continue on this chair if you don't have to.
It's been exhausting for me, but I'd do it again.
I would move to elect Tom Cavanaugh as select board chair.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Need
I
one.
would move to elect Jim Fleming as select board vice chair. Do you want to know another name?
Do we have a second?
Somebody else wants it. Jump right on it.
Well, I was just thinking, Jim, if you were maybe ready to have a little bit of a break, that I would nominate Martha. But if you'd like to stay on, then we can.
Well, as I say, I've done nothing so far.
You ran a meeting.
No, I mean, as far as I haven't run a meeting.
Oh, no, I thought you ran one when Tom was gone.
No.
No?
Who did? I don't know. One minute. But please, if you would like to, go ahead.
Who wants it?
You guys want to arm wrestle for it?
I nominate.
Happy to serve if Jim doesn't want to
Melissa
serve.
Brown for vice chair.
Oh, I was nominating Martha.
Oh,
I don't want it.
second.
Sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, Mark.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Jim. Big shoes to fill.
Yeah, you can have them. They're a little worn out.
Moving on to 3B, set regular meeting schedule and location. I think everything's been working good so far. So no one else thinks different.
I mean, the only question I have is if our agendas continue to be as full as they are 2 meetings enough a month? Or should we be sticking a third meeting in to make the meetings shorter? It's just a thought. Not that I have more days in my week, but, I mean, when they're going until 9 o'clock, I can tell you that that's a long meeting sometimes.
Well, that was due to a lot of stuff that was coming up that we had to deal with right away.
I feel like, too, just a side comment, that maybe more as it pertains to each individual's participation, but if you put it all together as a whole meeting, I think that this whole process will take the amount of time that you give it. So the more meetings you have, the more, you're going to have more full meetings. It's not really going to shorten it necessarily. It just seems like you can take on more. I don't know how you would ever prove that, or, you know.
I mean, I understand the theory.
I'd just like to see how it goes, and if it is overwhelming, then...
You mean reassess it at some point?
You can always add a special meeting too if you think.
Right.
Yeah.
And some towns will do, if there's a fifth Monday, they'll have one on that fifth Monday.
Instead of taking it off like we sometimes enjoy.
Right. So it's just...
No, I'm open to that, Jim. I think that makes sense. I just looked at the agenda for tonight and was like, holy mackerel. I know that this is the right after town meeting and it's always a little more packed, but it just seems like we have a lot going on in our town right now, and...
Well, if we see that to be the issue after we get past tonight's, because it is packed with
Yeah.
this, you know, like this guy, like that guy. If it's too much, I'm open to an extra meeting, but I want to make sure it's necessary.
Well, maybe every time we have a month with a fifth Monday, we ask ourselves, should we add something to it? Or should we add a select board meeting to that fifth?
What we'll also often do with that fifth is move the other meetings to accommodate holidays.
True.
what have you. Yeah. We've been lucky the past 2 years on those.
Well, let's try to accommodate both, which is, if we need to move it, and if we need to add additional meeting, add it.
I think also just being able to add a special meeting or something is a nice option, as opposed to saying we meet 3 times a month. You know, we could say, oh, this month we're adding one, as opposed to being able to go to the website and be like, oh, they're supposed to meet 3 times a month, and being committed to it, whether you have the workload or not. So
Okay.
maybe just adding as needed. Until we're totally overwhelmed.
Right.
Anyone care to make that motion?
I move to, I move to hold regular meetings of the select board on the first and third Mondays of the month at 6 p.m. at the town office building at 100 School Street, Old School Street in South Londonderry, or at the discretion of the select board chair, and as permitted by applicable law, meetings may be held without a physical presence using publicly available remote meeting software.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Just want to mention that the authority to have a entirely remote meeting expires in July of this year, but you never know what the legislature may move to extend it, so you don't know.
So 3C is designate newspaper of record.
No reason to change that, right?
I move to designate Vermont Journal as the town's newspaper of record.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3D, designate location of posting of notices.
Why would we switch that?
Just something I do of you.
Well, it's nice, everything's right down there for everybody to see. I move to designate the Londonderry Town Office, Butchell Building, the Londonderry Post Office, and the South Londonderry Post Office as the physical locations for posting agendas of the meetings of public bodies and other required public notices.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
3E, designate member with the authority to sign warrants and pay orders.
That's been your duty in the past, right?
He's most readily available. Except for Jim.
Yeah.
I would move to appoint Tom Kavanaugh as the designated select board member with authority to sign warrants and pay orders pursuant to 24 VSA section 1623A1.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
3F, adopt rules of procedure. Is there
The only amendment was the dates, is that correct?
Correct. I'm gonna check, I'm pretty sure. Should be.
Well, we have
Whatever.
town of Londonderry website looks like.
Yeah, no changes.
No objections, I would move that. I move to adopt and execute the select board rules of procedure as amended.
Second?
All those in favor?
Those are in the to-be-signed folder for everyone to sign.
Okay.
Who seconded, Martha?
I did.
Item 4, minutes approval meetings of 2/29/2024 and 3/5/2024.
Go ahead.
I move to approve the minutes of the select board meetings of February 29, 2024, and March 5th, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 5 is select board pay orders.
I move to approve the pay orders for payroll and accounts payable.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 6, announcements and correspondence.
It's dog registration time for month April 1st. Come on into the office or email us or send things in the mail and we'll give the dog a new tag. They're purple this year.
I have, just two things. I'll be at a conference on April 1st and 2nd, so I won't be at the next meeting, but I'll set it up and I'll see if Debbie can be here for a first time. In the meeting packet, there are just two items. One is the grant agreement on the Class 2 road edge striping. So we got a $35,000 grant, and we have to use that up by, in 24, calendar 24, so it's something we'll have to connect with and maybe make some recommendations as to what roads will get done. You know, there are really no limitations in the grant agreement, but originally it was Middletown and Thompsonburg that were discussed. So.
You said calendar year, right? So that would leave
Calendar
us
20
pretty much
this year. Yeah. So we should probably jump on that relatively soon because, and maybe if we can connect with V-Trans and find out if they're going to do a striping work and jump on their contract, maybe. See if we can do that, which would get us a better price and therefore more distance.
Yep.
Other thing I had was the February report from the Wyndham County Sheriff's Office. That's all.
You'll have financials next time, January and February. I'm getting caught up.
Sean, can I ask a question about that municipal policing report? At the bottom of each page, it lists the number of tickets and the amount. I'm assuming that's cumulative for all the pages, right?
It depends if it's different months. That's the only thing that would be different.
Yeah, it is cumulative. It's for the whole month.
It states it at the bottom of each page, the same amount, rather than a subtotal.
Yeah, every once in a while we get 2 months.
Okay.
So you'll see 2 different ones, but yeah.
I think it's because there's no real pagination in it. It's just one long report, and that those are just
be a
footers.
footer. Yeah, okay, all right.
Okay, item 7, visitors and concerned citizens. Anyone? All right. Item 8, town officials business. 8A, Village Wastewater Committee discuss next steps for project implementation.
There are 3 of us here. Chrissy Haskins, our contractor, engineer, can possibly join by phone if that's necessary, but otherwise we have our other 2 experts, Larry and Tom Metcalf, here to answer some questions and talk about next steps as Folk came out of our last meeting. So I'm going to let them speak first.
Sure, I can speak to at least one of the next steps would need to be to complete a contract starting the ARPA design segment of the work. We're still kind of overlapped between the preliminary engineering and what comes next, which is the design phase. And we need to get on the design phase very quickly so that we can meet all the timelines for doing that. And South Londonderry in particular, the South Londonderry system in particular is more important because it's got two phases to it. In terms of the design, they're going to design what falls under the it's the regional or the well. There's two types of wastewater projects. One is the indirect discharge program, and one is the regional program. Both the North and South Village projects will be under the regional program because they're under 6,500 gallons per day. But once the second phase of the South Londonderry project kicks in, that doubles the size, and that means it goes into the indirect discharge program. So that has to be permitted as we do this, even though it's not built right away. So that's an important thing that has to happen. So they want to get right on that right away. The other thing is appraisals for the private property so that an easement can be purchased for that because there's a deadline to do that. Also, actual surveys of the property, topographical surveys and any boundary surveys that need to be done, especially for the private property. Chrissy said they had available an engineering firm that had an on-staff registered surveyor, so he can do that work. And then they have another firm that they can call on if for some reason he's unavailable. All these have to go through archaeological. For the South Village system, there's a few additional test pits that have to be done. All of these still remain under environmental review, and apparently up to the 90% design phase. If something's found by the Division for Historical Preservation, which is the archaeological review, apparently that can make some major changes or even stop a project. But that we're quite a ways still away from the 90% design portion. That has to be done, I think.
I don't have a schedule, but I'm sure it's
by I think September of this year. Chrissy was hoping to have the design for the South Village system done by June of this year, which is only a couple months away. But she said that's important because that one is going to be critical. With the two systems, there's quite a bit of area that needs to be excavated, so that has to be checked out. They want to get archaeological in there as quickly as possible so they can get an okay on that, so that down the road there's little, if any, trouble regarding that. Let me see, I'm trying to think what else is critical right now. I think critical right now is getting a contract with Dufresne Group to go ahead with the design phase. But what Chrissy said, I think she said she would possibly have that done by the end of last week. Did you see anything?
Eddie asked her to copy me of the state.
Yeah. So possibly maybe the beginning of this week. I know she said that's fairly urgent, so she wanted to get that done. But then she has to give that to Emily Hackett at the state for Emily to approve before then it comes to the town.
Well, I'd like it to come at the same time we go to the state.
Exactly, yeah.
So we don't have to go back and forth too many times.
Right. She was going to copy you on that. So that's really critical to get everything still moving forward. There is, as she said, still that overlap, and there's I'm not sure about her budget. She said that the budget for the previous portion, I think, is nearly exhausted or has been exhausted, so that's, again, why it's very important to get this contract underway, so she can continue to clean up the preliminary portion and then start on the design portion. Anything else you
No, you pretty
can
much
pick up?
nailed it.
What's constituted in the archaeological study?
Pardon?
What are we talking about in the archaeological study? Old bottle dumps, or what are we talking about?
Well, she said it could be something like a cellar hole, old cellar hole, that if that's found. When one thinks of that, one thinks of like an indigenous or Native American, either or a regular burial ground. But she said it could be almost anything. So as long as it has some historical significance.
I think that's primarily only undisturbed areas that we would be concerned with. So
Yes.
on the roadways, it wouldn't be a place to be concerned, but only as we encroach upon people's property or those sorts of things.
She said the assumption is that along the roadways where the piping would go, that soil has already been disturbed. So likely it's been looked at, or anything that was there has been buried. She said also with the individual hookups, if an easement is needed to go to the septic tank, if there's a way to go up the driveway, that also includes disturbed soil. So that would be a way to expedite the work. Trying to think of anything else. Any questions that you might have?
I have a question. We have a copy of a letter from Heather Stevenson, and she just refers to the select board considering appointing a project manager at this transition time where, just reading right from her letter, it says, this would bring the planning commission's oversight to a close. Were you guys prepared to make a recommendation, or will that be part of the Dufresne group, or?
That's another part of the discussion. I think it's already, I don't know whether you've already maybe touched on that. Hiring, there is money in the design portion of the budget, or the ARPA money. There is a cap on that, but there is money to hire some sort of project manager. And Shane mentioned that you're working with WRC with some culvert work.
Yeah, for the Spring Hill Road Culvert Project, they're acting as our municipal project manager and getting paid for under a grant. So that would be the same kind of a model.
Yeah, BDCC, there's several people that could probably fill that role.
Yeah.
And
This seems like the right time to pursue that.
yeah, I think getting it started anyway, so that when they're ready to go to construction, that somebody would be prepared to take that on. Maybe even before. Chrissy can advise a little more on when that person might be needed. Shane might have to take on all by himself, which you said you just couldn't do.
I couldn't be effective. I couldn't be effective just given the other responsibilities.
Always like that already.
Yeah, so I guess the critical point being that we don't lose the planning commission's oversight prior to that being filled, but understanding that filling that position is, the time is now kind of, so.
Yeah, I think what Heather was saying that as the project moves forward, it doesn't seem quite as necessary for the committee to report to the planning commission as it does necessarily the select board. So then I think she's saying that meetings can take up less time if we're not reporting on the the wastewater project.
I mean, they're working on enough things right now, even taking on more, so I think they just want to jettison
Yeah,
the need to oversee.
I think that's the purpose of
So right now it would even be fine to do that, I imagine, because they're moving forward.
I think it would be timely to get the project manager, that process started, because that could even free up the wastewater group for a number of things. The project manager could report to the select board as opposed to having you all have to assemble all of the time.
Yeah, I mean, we're still gonna have to assemble, but, and of course, there's other things like, we have to start working on the ordinance for, the rules of people when they hook up, which is probably gonna come a little bit later. Trying to make the ordinance plus kind of sorting out who's going to be hooking up. We don't know that for sure. We know we've got a certain amount of capacity. We
Right.
know we've got a list of people who have inquired about hooking up. So we need to kind of sort out and then prioritize who, if for some reason we get more requests than we have capacity, we have to kind of decide who gets first choice.
I feel like the timeline is so critical for this project that a project manager could really be helpful in keeping that timeline in the forefront and us on schedule.
That was kind of my.
So that to me, it seems that's what needs to happen.
So my fear would be too, that, I know, I'm sorry, I keep jumping in, but, I just would want to make sure that we're ready for your recommendation, or that you're preparing your recommendation, or just so that's being talked about. And as Melissa said, time is of the essence, so I think we're prepared to support your recommendation as the planning commission.
Great.
But I would think this person would continually work with the committee, not, obviously everybody reports to the select board, but I don't know that you would want, you should be hearing from the commission, the committee itself, not necessarily the project manager at all times, or with, together or something like that, but.
It would be nice to know what that cap is, so in terms of budgeting time, so we don't go over the cap in terms of expenditures, but hopefully Chrissy could provide a question.
You've got a price of $1,260 a year for people in the South Village, and you don't know how many people are joining on. How did you come up with a number?
Well, it's based on, I think, the capacity and how many hookups there conceivably would be. So I think that was divided by the capacity based on, a 3-bedroom home and how many hookups. I think there were 23 hookups in one village, and I'm not sure, I can't remember whether it was the South Village. One was 24, one was 23.
It was the operating cost only divided by the number of hookups.
Right.
So if 12 of those 24 said no,
Pardon?
if 12 of the 24 said no, now you're looking at $1,520 a year.
Well, the plan,
$2,500.
the plan is that when we start to find out who wants to hook up, who does not want to hook up, then if we have extra capacity, then we can go to additional people who would like to hook up, who aren't on the priority list, and say, okay, there's space for you to hook into it. So the ideal is to get everyone hooked in, or at least take up the maximum and use all the capacity that we can.
So that's what our prices are based on.
Right, and there's a quarter-mile buffer zone outside of the project zone, the initial project zone, and there is some possibility for people in that buffer zone to hook into it. The only thing would be, what we would look for is, we don't want to, if there's somebody that's quarter-mile beyond the last grouping of houses, we probably wouldn't extend the line all the way out to reach them. But if there's groupings of, say, 3 or 4 properties that want to hook in, and they're a little bit outside the initial zone, then we would, that would be a good consideration.
Thank you.
Any further discussion right now?
I mean, the only question I have is what does it take to hire a project manager for this?
Well, we need to check with the state, with Emily, find out what it is that they need, but it would be us hiring, we would have to go out to bid or, do some kind of solicitation, get people, but they do allow at the state level for towns to contract directly with the regional planning commissions. So you don't have to do that. And the work I've been doing on the Spring Hill Road project with that one individual has been really pretty good. So I would be very comfortable working with him, and I think he'd do a nice job for us.
So they sort of have phalanx of consultants they can apply to various towns for these projects?
Wyndham Regional.
Yeah.
No, they have a few people on staff. I don't know the skills of everyone there, but I know the one I'm working with is fine, and I presume there are others who are pretty good as well.
We used, quite a number of years ago, we used WRC to manage the West River Trail Depot project.
Yep.
And they did a great job.
Yep.
So,
I think it'd be a good idea to, clear that with Agency of Natural Resources, that we would not have to go through a solicitation
Right.
process, because they're not for profit, and so it is always cheaper to go with them. We'll find that out first, and then see if they have the capacity and people to do it.
And ARPA might come with even more restrictions on what you gotta do too, who knows?
So who answers all those questions, I guess is my question. Is that
Emily
Shane does
Hackett.
that, or
yeah.
you all do that?
Emily, Chrissy has been very good in terms of relaying. She knows the ins and outs of how this all works between the state, the consultants, and the committee. So what she'll probably do, and we can do it too, we can reach out to Emily and ask her how this all works and how we would go about hiring, and then also ask her about the cap, because I think that's going to be important to figure out, how many hours we can use this consultant without going over the budget.
Sounds like your committee, Chrissy and Shane need to triangulate on all those things.
I could just send an
Yeah.
email to Emily tomorrow with those two questions.
Yes,
Yep.
that would be great.
I just wanted to mention that I did put out an email to Emily earlier this week, and I didn't get anything yet. I was gonna try again tomorrow, but if you want to do that, Shane.
Yeah, just, what's the cap, and is it okay to hire Wyndham Regional directly?
That was the question.
And what would be the ideal start date? I mean, again, with that timeline,
I think it's ASAP.
Yeah.
So as soon as everything can get, signed and in order, and, there is a process which is not just, it's not just the select board, it's the state has to go through a process. And so then, and then Chrissy has to, right now, do the process of putting together the contract that Dufresne Group wants, have it, she's going to copy Shane on it, so he has it commensurate with Emily having it, and Emily has to be the one that approves it, and then if it looks okay to
It's a standard format
yeah.
already. They ultimately need to figure out is the scope of work and the price.
Yeah, there's an
The prices,
engineer.
normally they're scheduled, they have a price schedule that they have out already.
And she's going to add an additional schedule to the contract schedule that'll help us kind of keep on track in terms of the committee, so that should be useful.
And it really should be the project manager who oversees that schedule.
Yes.
And uses that as a jumping off spot.
Yeah, yeah.
We got a lot of work to do and go around time.
Do we need to continue to alternate attendance at the meetings?
I mean, I'm planning on being there tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Yeah, yeah, I could do the night, if you could do the
I'm
day.
usually doing the days, yeah.
Okay.
We do have
We
one.
have one tomorrow evening.
Yes, I'll be
That's
there,
her-
present.
When's your next daytime meeting?
Actually, the fifth meeting in the month.
I don't know, I've lost track.
Pardon?
And the next daytime meeting would be,
It would be the last, I think it's the last Friday? First Friday. of the month.
first Friday.
9 a.m.
Okay.
And the third Tuesday.
First Friday.
Tuesday. First Friday and third Tuesday. First
On the
Friday is
Tuesday.
morning, third Tuesday is evening.
I don't know, you didn't mention, Larry, about the startup posters that were going around. For an engineer that was going to help Chrissy get going on surveys in the South Village, is where that began, supposedly today. Is that what you have, Taylor?
Yeah.
Notification? Yeah. So that's good news. That's visible and active. Chrissy hired an extra engineer to help her get started on that.
There is a motion in our packet.
I'm just going to follow up on, so for April 1st, I think we'd be looking at the appraisal, awarding an appraisal contract, the engineering contract, and the project manager contract with Wyndham Regional, if that's who is decided to go with. Okay. Sorry, Tom.
No problem. Motion's just taking the planning commission out of the updated and coming straight to us.
I move to amend the board's September 22nd, 2022 vote establishing the Village Wastewater Committee by removing the need to report to the Planning Commission.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, AB, Mountain Towns Recreation Director, discuss proposal for concert fundraiser at Pingree Park.
So I'm here in place of the rec director. He is away for a family thing. But he and I and Jed Hughes have been talking amongst ourselves and with the Parks Board about having a Mountain Towns Recreation fundraiser on June 8th. At Pingree Park. We just decided that's where we would like to do it. And at the moment, it would be Eastbound Jesus, the Mallet Brothers, and Saints and Liars playing a concert that would start around 4:30 in the afternoon and end around 9. We've gotten so far as to decide band's location. Haven't figured out ticket price, but we will be doing tickets rather than what happened last year with the flood relief event. While that's a really good model and we learned a lot about how we can have events at Pingree, we're in a different situation this year for a different purpose, so we're gonna adjust in how we are going to do fundraising. I think we'll also probably have another silent auction fundraiser as a part of it. But some of the things that we wanted to talk to the select board about before we moved any further forward with doing it was letting you know that we're talking about doing this.
Did you say June?
June, yes, 8th. Getting your blessing to go ahead and continue with planning. And if we get that, we could start to advertise. And some of the things very similar to last year that from the town's perspective we need you to vote on would be asking the Wyndham County Sheriff to again be at the event. Actually, I think that was a really, really helpful thing. We got a lot of good feedback from having them there, both from a traffic control standpoint and just that they were a good presence at the event. Potentially cost of some extra porta potties, which the Parks Board has money in our maintenance budget that we could cover that. We can try to get them donated, but that's above and beyond what we normally pay for porta potties. And then the question of alcohol at the event has kind of, there's some differing thoughts about that. Last year we came to you and got a BYOB permit, which again went really well at the event. There was not a lot of overconsumption. It was really family friendly. It is one of the things that made it feel like it was an affordable event that people could come to. But there is also sort of another part of it, which is that typically alcohol sales can make a lot of money at an event, and so it could be a big contributor to fundraising. So those two things being said, there has never been, since I've been here, that I've been aware of an event where there are sales of alcohol at any of our town parks, and possibly not even on town property that I have seen. So there's some precedent in that. And if the path forward is sales of alcohol, that means we have to find a caterer to get an event permit and do all of that in all of the legal ways that would have to be done. And make sure that the liability for serving alcohol is all taken care of in the right way. So that's one of the things that we wanted to talk to the board about specifically as we get to this point of like, okay, we think that this is a thing that we can pull off and we can move forward with, but that's a big question on top of just, does the select board feel like giving us the blessing to move ahead with doing the fundraiser in general? And then there's another thing that came up today with the Mountain Towns Recreation Advisory Committee, that West River Sports is having a fundraiser at Magic the week before with a band, and I'm not sure who's playing. And there was well, maybe we can do one big event all together. And there's a meeting on Wednesday afternoon to talk about that possibility, but at the moment, we would like to go ahead with planning for two separate events, because until there's something that happens that makes us need to pivot, time is short and we need to start advertising, and we need to let bands and stage and light and sound people know when we need them for. So I'm not going to, that's a conversation that's going to happen, but I think at the moment we need to be able to move forward one way or the other.
And the fundraising is for
Mountain Towns Recreation to help with costs associated with programming, keeping registration low, buying equipment, keeping up the fields. And the reason that we went with that rather than money going just to parks is we would really like the event to be community-wide and include all 5 of the towns that are involved in Mountain Towns Rec. And while there will be money coming in from registrations for programming and things, there isn't a budget for Mountain Towns Rec yet. And so in order to sort of create some seed money and give things some momentum, we thought that doing some fundraising was A, a good idea, and B, was going to be necessary in general to help support recreation programming down the pipe. So,
do you have an idea of how much you'd like to raise?
Right now, costs just for 3 bands, the stage, the sound engineer, and lighting is about $8,300. So that's what we have to make to cover costs. And we're, that's where ticket pricing and things like that are going to be considered, because we definitely need to make sure to cover all of that, but we also want to raise money. So, and that's where we kind of got into the circular conversation about alcohol and
I would say at the very least, you need the BYOB permit, because people are going to be bringing alcohol no matter what.
I don't like the idea of selling alcohol, especially if you join with somebody else. Let them bring I know it's a great money maker, but it's also a headache. That's why it's a money maker.
I think that there's some stigma too involved in family-friendly events that don't include cash bars. That's just my personal feeling, but.
Well, the lines get blurry too. If you're selling alcohol there, nobody can bring their own. They can't be done. So,
I also would more lean towards the BYOB just for that reason, but also just what it represents, having the sales of alcohol funding, it's a great fundraiser, but there's sort of a limit to that, and without knowing exactly where that is, I think it's better to come in under than going beyond the limit of what we can handle and manage, profitably or safely or respectfully as well.
And just one other thought, since we're gonna sell tickets, we're gonna have to close the park. I would take it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to check. So, it's fairly enclosed. If someone really wanted to traipse through the woods, they could. But other than the entrance off of Penguin Park Lane and the cemetery, which is, not an official entrance, but certainly is a known thing. So our thought was to put ticket checkers at both of those spots, and we can use an online ticket sales thing so people can have either an e-ticket or a paper ticket, and we can do wristbands and check IDs. That's, if we're controlling the influx of people, that's not an out of the realm of possibility thing.
Is there a capacity number you can't go beyond?
Well, there's no recorded capacity for what the park can handle. Last summer, it was 800 to 1,000 people at the event. There were a lot of people. So there was still some room, and we're talking about organizing it a little bit differently. We're actually thinking that we're going to put the stage down on the softball field to allow for some of that natural amphitheater of the hill, and really opening up a lot more space for people to be. We're also talking about having 3 or 4 food trucks there, and maybe a non-alcoholic beverage purveyor like lemonade or a vendor that does events in the area, although we haven't done any outreach on that yet. But so we're trying to set it up differently to be able to accommodate a large crowd, and thinking about parking again and shuttle buses and all of those sorts of things. So.
I haven't heard any opposition, so.
I just had one comment relating to if you did, or if it was decided to do the alcohol sales as part of the fundraiser. One system that I saw that I thought worked kind of in reverse, but really kind of responsibly, was if you do a wristband type sale, when a person buys a drink, you get a mark on your wristband, and once you have 3, then you're done. Yeah. So there is a way to kind of limit, open sales or unlimited sales.
And there is a limit from the DLL for how many drinks can be served to an individual at a festival. So that would have to be something that was kept track of by whoever the licensed bartenders would be if we went that route.
That would be...
That's a good...
The liabilities on them.
Right.
It would be maybe more, you could almost go through pretty quickly and calculate that, what the profit would be compared to...
Well, there's no profit if we do BYOB from sales or from alcohol sales. So I think it's really a matter of the policy decision and the precedent and the nature of the event. I mean, I have a personal opinion, but I also can see that there's,
Do you need a decision from us tonight, whether or not it is BYOB or?
I think the decision tonight is whether you're on board with us going ahead with the event in general, so that advertising can start happening sooner rather than later. And I think the alcohol question can be answered at a later date.
It doesn't affect what you need to put on your communication.
Because last, it's like, wouldn't determine, well, we don't have to comment on alcohol at all on posters, and we didn't for last year's event. I mean, we had the BYOB permit, but on none of the advertising did it say anything about alcohol. If anything, it maybe said something more like family friendly. And I don't, I feel not comfortable with having alcohol be a part of whatever advertising is happening. I think that's just a, again, personal feeling, but.
Like I said, I haven't heard any opposition, so I think we're fine with you going ahead.
Yep.
So let's get this moving. And if something changes because of the conversations between West River Sports and Mountain Towns Rec, when that conversation happens on Wednesday, I can let everyone know immediately. I just didn't want to have to wait 2 weeks to even get a thumbs up. Thank you.
Do you want me to connect with the sheriff's department early as opposed to?
That would be great. Get it on their schedule, get it on their radar. That was really a helpful piece of the puzzle last year.
Alright. Move on to 8C then, appoint road commissioner.
You up for it, buddy?
Yeah, I'll do it
I
again.
don't see anyone jumping for it. Taylor, so.
I move to appoint Taylor Prouty as the town's road commissioner.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
8D, appoint emergency management director. Rich has put in his application again.
I move to appoint Richard Phelan as the town emergency management director.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. 8E, appoint Wyndham Regional Commission representatives to.
Is there a second person interested?
No one has stepped forward. You mentioned today, I don't know.
Someone who was potentially interested, who I helped them get in touch with George, just to, if you have questions, if you want to know what it's about, see if it's something that would work for their lives. And I'm not sure if they have spoken to one another or where that is, but, and I don't want to throw out a name, because if they're not interested, I don't want to. But there was some effort to engage someone.
Why don't we appoint George?
And we can appoint someone later if we need to.
Yeah. So I move to appoint George Mora as the town's representative to the Wyndham Regional Commission.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
8F, appoint tree warden. I believe Kevin is up for it again.
I move to appoint Kevin Beatty as the town's tree warden.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Appoint 911 coordinator. Will has been doing this, correct?
I move to appoint Will Goodwin as the town's E911 coordinator.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. 8H, appoint animal control officer.
Sounds like Pat's.
You want to say something, Tina?
Yeah, well,
No, Shane does.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Pat has submitted his application, but also I've been looking a little bit into the Wyndham County Sheriff's Office, and they actually have individuals dedicated to doing this, and there is a grouping of municipalities that we could become part of. And the overall cost is, I think it was less could be less than $3,000, I don't know exactly. But what I did share with the board, I think, was information from 2020 on the startup of the program. And he was not able to get to me, he was away for some days, not able to get me a proposal specific to Londonderry. So it is an alternative that seems to work for some other communities, and I think it includes Winhall, I believe.
Shane, do you know, with that option, what sort of the scope of their offering is? I know Pat in the past has been willing to deal with like nuisance beavers when we have culverts that are being plugged, and I wonder if that goes beyond what just a dog.
I don't think they trap beaver.
No.
You know, they don't do things like that, but they do other, my understanding is they do other, like large animals if they're on the loose, that sort of thing. I guess the individual is she's a veterinary tech with some large animal exposure.
Yeah.
What's the response time difference going to be from somebody who lives just over, where is she?
It all depends. Could be the same. Some, a lot of times.
And, you know, they do cover Wyndham, so that they could be up here, and then it's apparently it's just kind of haphazard. It doesn't happen every day, it doesn't necessarily happen every week, it's just kind of, you get one neighborhood dog that's causing trouble, and
I definitely see the value of including that under sort of a law enforcement purview, but it kind of has looked like different things in the past for the town of Londonderry, I think, but maybe not limited to that, I guess, is what I'm thinking, but.
That's not saying you couldn't still do beaver control.
Right, they might call it.
Spends a lot more time doing that than sometimes.
What do we,
I heard $3,000. Was that $3,000 a year for this?
well, I'm just looking at, we don't have a proposal, but what I'm looking at is.
They're not gonna do it for free.
No. Right
Pat
now,
does it for free.
Pat does.
Yes.
Pat doesn't do
No,
it
he
for free.
Doesn't do it for free.
We pay him $225 a month, which is $2,700 a year.
Right, and I'm just.
Plus whatever beaver control that's actually.
And so, in looking at this, like the town of Wyndham is scheduled here, and this is the 2020, at $2,300. And if that many more communities come in, the per community cost or per individual cost would drop some, presumably. But again, we don't have a written proposal from the sheriff as of yet.
So the examples that it might include, which is on page 28, vicious animals, dogs at large, registration, rabies violations, animal quarantines and removals, animal abuse or neglect. So I mean, that sounds more dog related than larger animal related to me. I guess the real question is are we happy with the job that Pat's doing? Because if we are, then.
I'd say it depends who you talk to. Sometimes Pat can be hard to get a hold of.
But we don't know that these people would be any easier to get a hold of, necessarily.
We could always connect with
Not sure.
with my equivalents in different communities and see how it's working out.
I think that would be good information, yeah. See what everybody else is doing.
Is there any risk in, because this is not a definite situation, would it be wise to maybe appoint Pat and consider this for next year, or is it more mature than that? Or more?
I don't know, until we have a written proposal.
It's hard to say how reliable it would be.
But he seemed very open to it. I spoke to him while he was driving somewhere the other day, and he said he'll put something together for us.
Well, it probably wouldn't be a problem to switch in the middle of the year, would it?
I don't see why it would. It's not a permanent
It's not
designation that you
it's not a
make.
contract or anything like that?
No.
It's just an appointment?
It's not an employee, it's not really, because you give them a 1099, yeah, so he's a contractor or vendor, if you will.
So if we find something better, we can make a decision.
I mean, I think I'd like to know some more information.
I don't want to lose Pat.
I
In the
think we
meantime.
I think we can appoint Pat for the time being and until we have more information to make an educated decision.
Would you like to make that motion?
Sure, I move to appoint Pat Salo as the town's animal control officer.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
8I, appoint first constable and if needed, second constable.
Similar to what we just discussed a moment ago, I reached out to, well, this is the first year that the board is authorized by the town meeting to appoint a first constable and if necessary, a second constable. You'll recall that it had always been voted that last year's town meeting was voted to give you guys authority to do that. One of the things that, again, I reached out to the sheriff's department, and most of what the constable does already fits into their existing contract with us, other than delinquent taxes, and we have a delinquent tax collector, so that would be necessary to do. And he's, the sheriff's open to doing it. He said it would be best to have sort of a side contract that makes it clear that they're acting as the constable. Kevin Beatty did say he'd be happy to step in and do it unless there's, I think I quoted him, unless there's some other arrangements.
Would it make sense to have him do the Wyndham County Sheriff's as the constable position?
The first constable, have Kevin as a second.
As the second? Because we don't have a second otherwise, I'm assuming.
Well, Steve Twitchell was appointed last year. I had reached out to him and never heard back.
He asked me if he was gonna be constable again. He didn't seem to say he didn't want to do it, so.
I sent him and everybody else an email I send out every year and I never heard back. But, maybe appoint Kevin and then see what shakes out from the sheriff. And maybe then reappoint Kevin as the second and the constable, the sheriff as the first.
Can I ask one other question about the sheriff? Would they increase their cost to us?
No, he didn't say that. He said, we already do this, but it would be a good idea to memorialize it with some kind of contract add-on or something like that. Because it's interesting, I looked into it, and nowhere does it say that a constable has to be an individual. And in fact, a constable is mentioned in the state charter, the original charter, but it's only to deliver the election results to the governor or something like that, some arcane thing.
On horseback, probably.
Yeah.
Hear ye!
Long thing, but whatever your pleasure is.
Seems like it's always been, and I mean, although we do have a willing person, it's always been one of those things that's been kind of jokingly filled as a position, and now we're doing it differently, so maybe it's time to do it.
Constable's never really done much.
Right.
Direct traffic
They have no
sometimes.
law enforcement
Yeah.
capability.
Do you know when the town voted to remove the law enforcement ability? There has to be a town vote to do that.
I believe it was a town vote
In
It
the,
was in the 90s,
in the
probably.
late 90s.
I'm just curious if you knew.
We could probably track it down. It was,
If the county sheriff's already doing most of it anyway, we might as well just have him be the constable and we can have Kevin be the second if we actually need somebody right away and we can't get
It
through.
could be a town meeting and kick someone out. If they're unruly.
I think Kev actually accompanied Rich Phelan on a health officer thing, and that was really maybe about it. I don't know that there's really been much over
I
the
think that's
last.
the only thing I've heard about.
Well, then maybe, again, appoint Kevin and we'll see what happens with the sheriff's department. And then he can, again, move to the second
What
spot.
more are we gonna learn that will decide about the sheriff's department? I thought we knew enough.
He wanted us to look into whether or not, to discuss an add-on contract. And so, I mean, we could just go ahead and do it, and then subject to whatever agreement might be needed. We didn't have a length discussion about it, just a couple of emails back and forth.
I would verify that there's not an additional cost along with it. Just because when you say in addition, that to me says money.
He's never
I
said,
think the more we farm out, the less we become. A constable is a thing that's been in the towns of Vermont forever. It should be a local person.
I can see that. And I can appreciate that.
You don't have to agree with it.
And I can agree with it. No, I mean, it's
Well, I think we'd all
steeped in
agree,
tradition.
I think we'd all agree that it's not a really busy position anyway. So we're not gonna make a mistake making this choice, I don't think. And I think it's important to maybe go with your heart a little bit if that.
Would you care to make a motion, Jim?
Go with your heart, Jim. Go with your heart.
I move to appoint Kevin Beatty as the town's first constable.
Second.
All those in
First.
favor?
Aye.
And I move to appoint Steve Twitchell as town second constable.
Second.
We're not sure he wants to do it.
He asked me if he was gonna do it.
He'll do it, you know he'll do
He
it.
won't have to do anything anyway.
Exactly, it's just,
All those in favor?
Aye.
who seconded the first one? Which is
Me.
Okay, Melissa, and who just, Tom did?
Taylor, either one we're about to say. Item 9, transfer station solid waste management, 9A's updates. I have no updates at this time.
Electronics collection's coming up.
Oh, there you go.
My husband just asked me.
It's, I put it up on the website. And hazardous waste is June 5th, I think. First Saturday in June.
Oh,
Is that the 8th?
is that the 8th?
It's at Floodburg's.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's usually like 9 to 1 or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact
We
time.
won't be competing.
No.
Did you want to mention it, or is it premature about what we talked about?
Maybe it's the first.
They're showing up with a list.
That might be the first, walk that back. It might be the first of June.
For hazard?
We'll get it figured out for next meeting.
Yeah, check the website.
Alright, item 10, roads and bridges, 10A's updates.
Just that maybe we're finally starting to see some headway with mud season. I think that it's, in a lot of areas, it's getting to a point where we can actually get on the roads and start grading and adding more material, and less areas that are nearly impassable than there were previously. So hopefully the guys will keep gaining on that and things keep drying out. It is still only middle of March, but fingers crossed.
Josh had brought up something with
Yeah,
Kelly and Tina.
Josh decided that it might be a good idea after everything calms down to like take pictures of the roads. So we have pictures of a before in case something else happens, and then we have an after. So Tom and I were talking about it today, and maybe a video would be better. So we thought about maybe getting a GoPro camera that he can mount on the dash of the truck, and he can just drive around
And
and
then
take
if
video, and I think you can take screenshots from the video. And then we'd have a clear picture of where we started, and
it could be a lot less time consuming than trying to take pictures of every portion of the road.
I mean, in anticipation of FEMA stuff?
yeah, just in
how often?
anticipation of like, what it looked like, should we have another flood?
Yeah.
Okay, this is what it looked like the day before, or, before anything happened to it, and then they can take pictures of after.
Google Maps and Street View does a good job with that, but it's one of the best.
Yeah.
But sometimes looking,
I think it would be good historical information to have.
And the
yeah,
GoPro might be good even with flooding too, when you go down the roads, you can
yeah.
document stuff real quick.
So, and they're like $2.99, and there
I
might
might
be
even
some
have I might have
accessories.
one.
Huh?
I might have one.
I
It's
know.
probably like
Oh.
outdated though, so you should probably get one. It's probably like the original.
Well, I probably have one too, so.
It's got a little hamster in there that runs along.
I have enough money in our computer equipment budget.
Is there, and I should know this too probably, but that may not include like culvert headers or like the underside of bridges, and that's another inventory completely that's updated by the original commission, right? So
Culverts and
And
the
there's.
bridges over 20 feet, the state does every 2 years.
every 2 years, okay, that's what I was wondering about. I mean, I think the GoPro is an easy way to capture a lot at once, but maybe those still photos, like at the header of a culvert or something.
Yeah,
like
you
that
still
would be
need some
good.
specific stuff, but instead of trying to take pictures of the road everywhere.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think that's really apparent right now with the process with FEMA is, it's really easy to be feeling like you need to dive right into the work, and then you
Yeah.
realize, once you touch it, and you don't have a photograph, it's too late.
Yeah.
So, and that's problematic, obviously, so.
Sounds like a good high school project.
Doesn't really need a vote since it's
No,
cheap,
just
but
do
if
it.
everybody's good with it.
I'll order it.
Yeah.
It'll be here the 7th and the week.
And we just gotta train them how to use it.
We'll get his daughter to help him.
Troy will figure it out.
10B, annual town highway financial plan certificate.
Yeah, every year we, after town meeting, we're gonna sit down with Megan Brunk from V-Trans District 2 office, and she came here last week. And she looks at our budgets and did these things between the two, winter maintenance, non-winter maintenance and all that, and comes up with figures that for I think it's non-winter maintenance, that is the number that if you have road damage at 10% of that amount, then it kicks, I think that's what it is, then it kicks into getting state funding for improving things. That's why this is done every year.
Okay, to make that motion.
And just to clarify, in the description, these are mileage of dirt roads and paved roads, essentially, right?
Class 1, 2, and 3, yeah.
I move to adopt and execute the annual financial plan for town highways pursuant to 10 VSA Section 306J.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We all gotta sign this one.
Yeah. Your names are on there, so sign your name.
And 10C is consider applications for excess vehicle weight permits.
They're all, every year we do these, right?
Yeah, I don't see any new on there.
No.
No, nobody's new, and they all have their insurance certificates.
I move to approve the excess weight permits for St. Pierre Incorporated, Consolidated Communications Incorporated, David Shaves Excavating Incorporated, RK Miles Incorporated, Gurney Brothers Construction Incorporated, and Brayson Brothers Trucking Incorporated, and authorize the town administrator to execute the permits on behalf of the town.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 11, old business. 11A, discuss hiring a part-time short-term rental administrator, 2024 town meeting, Article 9.
So, you know, we've already received 3 applications in, so I was surprised to see so quickly, but, I think
That's great.
yeah, it was wonderful. And I provided to you some notices, well, yeah, there was the posting of the job opening as well as the job description, and then lastly, yeah, I put it at the VLCT website, and then it was also in the Front Porch Forum, and it appears, I think it appeared on Wednesday in the Vermont Journal, and also it's in the Chester Telegraph. So the question is, how do you want to handle this? Do you want to look through, and once I guess we should close, once you have 3 to 5 applications, bring them all to the board, you decide, or do you want to give that off to somebody else, or whatever you want to do. And
Do we want to start like interviewing in case so we didn't have to do like 5 or 6 interviews in a night, or?
You could just have 2 of you do it.
Yeah, just do a paper review first and decide if you can pick anybody out based on qualifications, and then, yeah. So,
We said that it would be open for registration April 1st, so that gives us about a week and a half.
it would open on the 1st?
Registration,
Oh, registration,
Well,
excuse me.
as soon as.
as soon as.
Yes.
Nobody's gonna be beating down the doors.
Well, I'm just saying, think about doing this sooner than later.
Yeah. It'd be ideal that, the initial schedule had us hiring someone in January, but, things took some time. So we're a little bit behind the 8 ball, but if we can get someone in April, it'd be great.
Are you comfortable doing an initial screening and?
I'd much
He sent
rather do
all
it with, I sent it to you, so
Did you just send it to me? Okay, because I've seen the applicants, but if you send it to everyone, they can pay for them.
think I saw it.
I haven't seen them.
no, because if I send them out, then it's well, as long as you don't respond.
I'm happy to,
But maybe 2 board members
I'm happy to
can
work
work with
on
me
that.
on it?
yeah,
Would that work?
yeah.
Unless you want to do it, Melissa, I can do it.
I think it's probably more appropriate for you to do it as the chair, but I have been pretty involved with the process, so,
Yeah.
no, I'm fine with allowing more people to get involved with this process.
And I
I think maybe my view has gotten somewhat,
No, and I'm just thinking an initial
Restricted.
screening, and then we bring a couple of candidates as a final interview to the whole group. Does that sound right?
I'd say have a special meeting either, I guess not next week, because we still gotta go over it and pick one, but maybe start of April to do interviews.
Would it be an executive session in the first meeting in April, or?
I think it might just be
I won't be
easier,
here that meeting, but we don't necessarily need me for it.
I think it would be easier just to have one meeting just to do the interviews versus having to do interviews and then do select board meeting.
Right.
And there was someone else who wanted just some background information on it. It's sort of an exploratory interview. I could have a discussion, or you could, or all 3 of us could at the end of the June.
Sounds good.
The first meeting is the first, I guess, right?
I've already looked over it.
We look at, so just put the list of them or the applications to me.
and then we'll look to hopefully have something in front of us on April 1st. A recommendation from.
Yeah, from the 3 of us. Does that sound good? Or,
Us 3?
yes, is that what we're saying?
Not me.
Yep,
Okay.
sure. Sounds good. All right. We'll move on to call 8-1, additional SDR conversation.
So, the Housing Commission met on the 14th of March. And during our discussion of short-term rentals, we do have some representation of Planning Commission on the Housing Commission, as well as Select Board, DRB. So there are a lot of other groups that recognize that the ordinance, once the bylaws get moving, it's gonna require some work. And we were kicking around some ideas, and we decided that we'd like to ask the Select Board if they would consider naming a working group or a committee with the membership consisting of 2 members from the Planning Commission, 2 members from the Londonderry Housing Commission, 2 members from the Select Board, and then the new short-term rental administrator. to review the ordinance language and develop a strategic plan that will accomplish the goals of the ordinance. And we spent a lot of time looking at the purpose of the ordinance. And in the purpose, I feel like we've done a really nice job in the language of the ordinance, covering some of them, but not all of them. And just to refresh your memory on Article 2, the purpose, it was to, sorry, I need my glasses, was to A, balance the desire of property owners to rent their residential properties to short-term rental guests for compensation against the desire of residents to preserve the traditional peace and quiet of their residential neighborhoods. B, to preserve and protect residential neighborhood character and livability from the nuisance impacts that are often associated with short-term rentals. C, to limit or prevent long-term rentals from being replaced with short-term rentals. D, to ensure the safety of occupants of short-term rentals and the well-being of the community. And E, to promote the public health, safety, and welfare of the town, its residents, and visitors. Some of those A to E items were covered very well in the ordinance, the existing ordinance, but once these groups get together and sort of put together some language that can have a little more teeth and maybe have some better enforcement, make it a little bit easier for that short-term rental administrator, along with making sure that the language is the same, that our definitions are true definitions to what zoning is. So it could be a lot of work. We've already spent 15 months, 12 to 15 months, and it took us a long time to get the ordinance as it is. And I just think it could move a little more quickly with a smaller group. So that is what the Housing Commission was asking that I bring to you today. And my recommendation from Select Board representation would that it would not be me. That I would, if I could have it my way, I would ask for Tom to sit on it, and I would ask for someone who has not been as closely involved, just to give it a fresh set of eyes to really look at it. And I think that that's appropriate.
So besides changing any definitions that might come from new zoning, I would say we should not rewrite anything in an ordinance until next year's registration comes along. Because it's already been out and that's what they're gonna be going with this year.
Well, but the limitations aren't defined in section 6 because they were originally asked to not be there. And I think there was some confusion, is my understanding, that Bob Fisher has said that limitations can go into the ordinance and that the ordinance is possible to stand alone when it comes to enforcement. So there will need to be some language added in order for the short-term rental administrator to enforce the ordinance.
They can already.
Yeah, from what I remember Bob saying is limitations work better in zoning than they would in the ordinance.
I think he walked that back.
I don't recall that myself, but I could be wrong.
I mean, I can, unfortunately, Heather, who was involved in that conversation, it was not able to be here tonight, but it's my understanding that he walked that back and that limitations do belong in the ordinance. So that your short-term rental administrator is enforcing the short-term rental ordinance and your zoning administrator is enforcing zoning.
Right.
If you have limitations in zoning, then you have your zoning administrator trying to, it's like jurisdiction crossover. Makes it complicated.
Well, no, because if you have limitations in both, then that's what causes that.
Yes, but my understanding was that in order to move with the zoning, to get, to not stall any longer with the zoning bylaws, that very limited language was going to go in, basically allowing for short-term rentals. So the ordinance was going to be used to produce a little more teeth.
I thought we already talked about holding the zoning until we get the actual short-term rental language in there. We discussed this at a meeting and that's what we told the planning commission to do.
I think a lot has happened since then.
I think if you're rewriting the zoning, you might as well get the short-term rental in there as it should be.
Well, I don't want to, that's not why I'm talking about this today. I'm asking if a working group or committee could be formed to stay up on top of the language, the ordinance language, and make sure that as we're moving forward, that it has input from all of the stakeholders.
Any further discussion on that?
I think the committee sounds fine in terms of representation.
Isn't 6 a bit large for a
Would
committee?
actually be 7, 2, 4, 6, 7.
7.
So,
Isn't that-
I like odd numbers, you know, there's no ties.
Let's try 3. It just seems like a lot of people to get on the same page all the time. I don't know.
One thing that's happened with other groups like this, in subcommittees and committees, is to come up with a charge that the board can vote on. These are the people, this is what you're charged with doing, like they do with
The dam.
wastewater.
The
and
dam.
Others as well.
Well, I mean, if I need to fill out a form, I can fill out a form, or I can have Patty fill out a form, but this was basically the charge.
Okay. I'm not
I can
suggesting
repeat it.
forms be filled out by anybody. I'm just-
Well, I mean, if that's what needs to happen, I don't know exactly what the process is. I'm asking.
It's
you.
whatever, you guys make the process, we just run with it. But, you do whatever you want, obviously, but, just with other subcommittees and task forces and all that, it's, done with a well-formed motion, but if that's, you think that works?
Does it
is
need
it
to
what you
be,
read?
I mean, I could read this as it's a pretty good formed motion.
Great.
It's all the bullet points from the charge to the, it's sort of a continuation.
I mean, I could make a motion, and you could write it
Yeah,
down.
it'll go to the tape, I mean, well,
We'd have to
If you're
wrap.
gonna
Am I okay to
Task
make a
force-
motion, is the question? Or-
obviously, yeah, you're a
Someone
board
else?
member, of course, but, I'm just thinking if, so each of the other committees will just choose somebody.
Yes.
I think
How
since
about
it has to be ratified anyway, you and Patty work on a formal charge, and we can discuss it next meeting.
Well, I have one, and if
'Cause
it's
it's
going
added.
into effect April 1st, I mean, why not?
I mean, the ordinance is already in effect.
Yes,
It's just
but
registration said we
We
would
could
be
potentially
open
have a
up.
short-term rental administrator, or at least somebody in the pike at that point. It's gonna take these committees a little bit of time probably to find 2 people that are willing to sit in this working group. I can make a motion tonight that, with your approval, could be the charge, and then we can ratify it on April 1st.
Right, and everything that the ordinance covers now will continue.
Yes.
Because that's been in place.
Yes.
The only issue is, might
This
there
is
be
future.
modifications made down the pike that tweak it to the benefit of the program?
Because there will need to be modifications made.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make a motion and maybe I'll get a second. I move to name a working group or committee with a membership consisting of 2 members from the Planning Commission, 2 members from the Londonderry Housing Commission, 2 members from the Select Board, and the newly hired short-term rental administrator to review the ordinance language and develop a strategic plan that will accomplish the goals of the ordinance.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
11B, consider amendments to the personnel policy. From what I looked over, I don't see anything too controversial unless someone has something on the personal or the social media.
The only contestable thing was not doing drug testing and just dismiss them for behavior. Those are current comments, would they, Shane?
Oh, could you take one step back? I'm sorry, I didn't mention it, but on page 46 was a memo that went out from the Division of Fire Safety. Tom and I are gonna meet with someone from that office tomorrow late morning. And I got this from another town. It was never sent to us directly. So we're going to talk to them about what their plans are for rolling out their review of different short-term rentals. So again, just got that the other day. So
So you and Tom are gonna, should Will meet with them also? I don't know if any of this will,
They asked us for the meeting, so I'm not exactly positive what they're looking
last
for.
week, they said on Tuesday, we want to meet with you tomorrow morning. I said, no. And,
Appreciate your enthusiasm.
so can we add to the agenda for April 1st, just a report out on this?
Yeah.
That would be great. Thank you. I think it's interesting, above 16 guests is considered a hotel motel.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
I feel like their work is gonna simplify our work a little bit.
I agree.
Social media, would have that many people in it?
Yes, 20, yes. But the ordinance will help to balance that hopefully. So, but I just think it's interesting to see that from the Division of Fire Safety. That's a line in the sand, for sure.
That they enforce.
anyway, so, sorry about that.
Thank you.
Personnel policy, yeah, again, this is just the next chunk.
Yeah.
And the personal use of social media, this does come from VLCT.
And an alcohol drug.
Martha, your comment about the drug testing, the way that I read that was that if there's an event, if something happens and you require a drug test, then that sort of puts a lot of responsibility on the town for that procedure, because what we really, at this point, it's random testing for employees, especially the ones driving the equipment, but I think the difference being that if it's just random, and in this instance that it's being referred to, it seems to me like it would go from random to required. Am I overreading that, or?
Well, if they're suspected, you'd want to do.
You
a test.
asked for a test.
As quickly as you could.
Right. But I don't think that adding this does anything to change the requirement that random drug testing still be. Right.
Yeah, 'cause it's already
Right,
required.
this is if you have probable cause, like an event or something that you're describing, then they're saying, don't use the word, don't have the language in here that says that they must take or submit to a drug test, just send them home, right? Isn't that what I'm reading here?
Yes.
It says it would avoid the procedural challenges to any termination associated with drug testing and the protocols for
Correct,
testing.
because it's so basic, it's a difficult legal path to follow, so yes.
If you think someone's under the influence of something, should you be sending them home? Should you tell them to get in your car and drive home?
Yeah, right, I was just gonna say, I've had that situation.
Well, and I also
Put 'em
think
in a
that
taxi.
you're bordering on what the police would be doing if there were an incident anyway, probably, right? I mean,
You could, yeah.
I don't know. I think it sort of delves into territory that I'm not sure we need
Right,
to.
and they're saying,
Get that
don't
deep
even
into
get
it.
in that territory.
So we may want to take their recommendation and just remove that.
Remove that highlighted section of
Yeah.
under drug testing, yeah.
So you're talking about striking the second purple text.
That's what I think, yes, in number 1, under section 11.
Excellent, that.
Yeah,
Right, and the upper part would remain.
yes.
Yep.
Yep. Do we do random tests on the guys who grab the CDL, who have the CDL license? Yeah.
CDL does, yeah.
Yeah.
Both.
Well,
I've done that 5 times now.
they send somebody,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're part of it.
We do a pre-employment.
Right.
Right, and then there are quarterly random draws. And some quarters, nobody gets drawn. Some quarters, 2 people get drawn, and then it's just 1.
Yep.
We only have 3 employees, so we can go for multiple quarters without anyone getting tested. But there's a procedure for when they draw one of our employees, and
They show
I
up.
then have to schedule with the department, and then there's a whole procedure for, I have to contact
Yes,
Josh,
yeah.
blah, 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 blah.
Chain of command, yeah.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
Yeah,
The whole overhead, yeah.
Yeah, all CDL licenses can be required to take a drug test whenever someone shows up.
Yeah.
What's the policy if someone gets hurt on the job? Do they get tested automatically, drug tested or no?
Hurt on the job while driving?
Or just hurt at work, like if they're cutting brush or mowing or, you've never heard of that? No?
I don't think that would be automatic. I think, if you had a suspicion that was the reason, maybe there would be a different reason. It's not triggered by each accident.
but then you would also want to get legal.
Yeah.
What's that?
You would also want to get legal advice before you,
No, it's just a question.
haven't seen that come up.
Certainly if they were driving or something and they got pulled over.
Right.
That's where the police,
Yeah.
they're
The police will do what
they're gonna do it
Yeah.
anyway, and we'll get the results without
Yeah.
having to get involved.
Yeah.
Personnel, or the social media, does anyone have any comments on?
No, it seems pretty standard.
It is, it's directly from the OCT.
And how about public records?
If we could add kind of a gray area with this, or does everybody know how to manage if they're using their own equipment, electronic equipment, computer equipment?
For public, for access to public.
If you, apparently, if you use your personal equipment and you communicate using public business or communicating public business, you have to send into the town's system, the public system, your correspondence so that it becomes part of the record. It's not left
I don't use my personal.
solely on your computer.
I only use my town email account for any town.
Right,
Yeah.
you should always
business at all,
just use
so-
that because that's all discoverable.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't use my personal email.
I
account
use
for town
my
business.
Outlook, but it's attached to
Yeah,
my Outlook here.
yeah, yeah. Seems pretty obvious, or
Yeah.
people understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah, is everybody good with that?
This is why you all have emails with your names.
That's right.
We used to use
I
the.
appreciate
Yeah,
that.
when I first started, it was
Six
just your.
different
regular
email account or something, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. All right,
All right, anyone can
So, all set with those? or-
how many more sections of the personnel policy do we have to plow through?
Oh, what I try to do is create
I
a
know,
chunk.
are we halfway through?
Well, we're getting there. We're getting there.
All right, 11C, consider projects for funding through the Municipal Technical Assistance Program. This is being worked on through Wyndham Regional.
I tried to reach Chris Campany today just to get a better idea of what their deadlines are and what kind of format applications are going to be in, and I was not able to reach him.
Last email I got from them, they had some other consultants that were supposed to be getting in touch with us.
Yes,
They're assigned to us in this thing.
yeah, and, I
Gretchen.
sent him an email and copied her, I believe. Anyway, they included in here is an email we received from Wyndham Regional and indicating that they've opened up, they've broadened the universe of types of applications that would be accepted, one of which includes town plan. And one of the things I handed out to you tonight was a request from the planning commission to help fund the next town plan, which is due in a year and a half or so. They're looking between $20,000 and $22,000. They have a proposal from Wyndham Regional Commission to assist with that.
What's the most we can ask for?
They said don't ask for more than 100,000, so that means 100,000.
But
Are there
Chris-
some scoping projects that we
Yeah.
should stick them on,
Yes,
such as
well, some flood hazard
flood resilience?
stuff.
Yeah.
Flood
Well,
mitigation.
they talked to us at one point, Alyssa Sabato from, Sabato,
Sabato, yeah.
She talked to us once about what projects we wanted to look at under this. And the ones we listed too were Cobble Ridge replacement, which doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Reinhardt and Barker Road culverts and Spring Hill Road culvert.
Yeah, but at the 12-4 meeting, we said we wanted to participate in water supply and wastewater infrastructure, housing, community recovery, workforce development and business support, climate change mitigation and resilience, other community economic development projects identified by a municipality and approved by the state.
We basically spat
Yeah.
back to them what their original
We'll do anything.
request was.
Right.
So we
Right,
just-
they gave us a list and we selected.
We took
those.
all.
Yeah, we took them all. Why wouldn't we?
Exactly.
We're also trying to get a sit down with Alyssa to go over all the flood related projects that we have
Right, because there
and
could
try to figure out what funding's gonna come from where, cause right now I couldn't tell you what FEMA's gonna do.
Yeah, we had a little struggle with FEMA today on some of this funding stuff. It's just to let you know, with FEMA, they're cleaning house with everybody, just about, in Vermont. We're losing our project manager at the end of next week. The head of the Vermont Public Assistance Program is out. I don't know the extent of it, but it looks like top to bottom, they're cleaning house. And that hopefully is a really good thing.
We'll find out.
It's been
Have we-
extremely confusing.
Right. I mean, there's only so much to go around, but have we figured out what our priorities are?
As far as from the flooding?
I mean,
Or you mean with FEMA?
I don't know, I'm just trying to fit yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's the regional work, I'm not sure exactly how that's gonna get funded. But maybe each town has to kick in through MTAP or
Right,
something.
for some of that, and I think that's, scoping study is a good thing to keep in mind, that when you're thinking about
The regional study,
The
yeah.
regional
Right.
stuff, is that, you know,
Two Rivers out of Queechee, the Regional Commission, they're looking at helping us do, sounds like Parker Road and Reinhardt Road culverts, but there again,
Yeah, there's just so many different
Have no-
programs, but
yeah.
definitive answer yet.
yeah, I mean, those culverts are big. The bridge, Cobble Ridge Road Bridge, but there's also an opportunity for a bypass, potentially including Derry Woods Road, that we should look into. And that could be, also Rose Road needs to be elevated. So we've got some, you know,
There's some
Structure
resiliency work
project.
that could be looked at.
right. But we need to find out from Wyndham Regional, Alyssa, what other funding sources can better
Right,
apply to
it's
some of these
almost like we should
projects.
have a whiteboard that has all the
Yeah.
different projects on it, then in a second column that has all the different possible funding sources, and then start to match them and then prioritize.
Well, that's what Wyndham Regional has asked for, is a list of all our
Okay, all right.
projects, and then hopefully we can sit down and find out a VEM, Two Rivers, whatever else money there might be out there.
Right, right. And I don't want to lose track of sort of that initial post-flood trauma thought about how we're going to avoid this from happening
Right.
again, and particularly that Main Street area.
I think that community assistance group, that
Oh, yes.
there's now the FEMA contact for, that's another place to get the answers about what things could be funded from where,
He
which
was,
is federal, but it's all,
Yeah,
yeah, last I heard from him, he was on vacation, but he is trying to set up a meeting with us.
yeah. I think he's back. well.
Melissa?
So this email that was received on March 11th, it's page 55 of your packet. I guess we've already been, we have someone assigned to us, Gretchen, excuse me, Gretchen Haverlook.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so what types of projects qualify? It's pretty spelled out in that fourth paragraph, but town plan updates is in there.
Good.
And we're due, so hopefully. But it sounds like just infrastructure engineering is what they'll cover, but not the actual construction itself,
Correct.
so.
Yeah, that's what my way of looking at it is we should try to get some plans done and so that when some grants come along, we've got a plan ready to roll. A lot of times that can really put you ahead of everybody else.
Would this money source extend to the conversation that has been sort of maybe started but not really expanded upon of involving like Weston, Londonderry, Jamaica, basically?
That's what I mentioned earlier.
Okay, yeah. So it is like that regional.
And we have,
Is that ready for money or is it, I guess that was my question, it's like,
It could be, but I think that's another, knowing what funding sources are going to what. And within those three towns, who's eligible for what is another question. Like, I think the community assistance thing through FEMA and with the federal agencies, I don't believe that that was available to Weston or Jamaica, but I could be mistaken about that. So
guess
it's not all available in the same way to each.
that's what I was
Weston
kinda
and
thinking about,
Jamaica
is
are covered here though.
Right.
The way that-
They're covered as a part of this pot of money.
yeah.
That's what I was thinking about, the way that this money could apply to maybe other towns, or what other towns are doing with maybe a similar opportunity, with something available to them.
So Heather, from the planning commission, she has a scope of work here for the town plan update for $20,000 to $22,000. So I'm hoping that this will get the first crack at the money.
Should that go on this list? Town plan?
I mean, there's already here's the proposal. I mean, so do we need to approve that so that that's where at least part of that money is already dog-eared to go?
Yeah, my sense is that we should be, that's why I was trying to reach Chris today. I mean, what do you want from us? And do you want individual applications, or do you want one, document that says these are the projects we want, these are the scope, this is the cost? We don't know what that is yet. And maybe the board just needs to make a decision at the next meeting, or you could just add this one right off the bat.
Chris, he's Wyndham Regional, right?
Correct,
Because
executive
this,
director. Yeah.
according to this is, Wyndham Regional has provided the cost and scope details. So this is from Wyndham
They're
Regional.
both, but they need the money to.
And that's about the same as it was last town plan, my boy. Pretty similar.
It's a municipal planning grant.
Well, last time,
Yeah.
Yeah, but municipal planning grants are not available, at best we'll get the money next January. So they wanted to move on that now, so it makes sense.
I mean, it sounds like they've given us a scope of work. There might be a timeline that's already in the works, so
I don't think anyone's arguing about putting that in there.
great.
Ain't you?
So that would be one of the bullet points in the motion.
Do we want to say right from this paragraph, like if we were to make that as a motion? I think the community-centered programming thing is probably on hold, but we could do flood hazard assessments, infrastructure engineering, and permitting, flood resilience, town plan updates.
I'm thinking just wait till April 1st, see what we get out of Alyssa Sabato. And it could be that we don't, that other funding sources will take care of it, and we can just have 2 or 3 items on here.
We really want
Make
to
it
bring
simple.
this and just let the board have a discussion, because until we sit down with her and find out
Right.
exactly, maybe Reinhardt and Barker Road are definitely getting done with this Two Rivers.
Right.
Regional Commission.
So,
And we've been waiting we've also heard that FEMA was gonna pay for those same projects,
Yeah.
and now they're not, and
Yeah.
so I have here that there's a March 25th meeting. The Planning Commission meeting on Matt Batchelor, the Wyndham Regional Municipal Planning Lead, will be joining the Planning Commission meeting on April 8th, and discussion will begin on our March 25th agenda. So, I don't know if we need to be more specific with our motion. It seems like, and I don't know, maybe you can speak to it a little bit more, Larry or Sharon, that seems like the ball's already kind of moving on the town plan.
Yeah, I think she's looking for, and Sharon, correct me, I think she's looking for just a go-ahead from the select board that we will be looking for that amount of money to do the rewrite or the revisiting of the town plan. And that we'd like to get started as soon as possible. I'm not,
Because our plan is over 8 years
Yeah.
old, and it needs to be brought up to current standards as quickly as we can. So we've kind of pushed it forward from some of the other things that we're working on right now.
I think with this MTAP grant, we really need to talk to one of these people. We need to get them in here, either Alyssa or the Gretchen lady, and actually have a discussion, which
We
they're
don't really
supposed to
have
be doing.
We don't really have a motion for tonight then necessarily, is that?
No, we don't really need one. It's more of a discussion point.
Right.
Can we remember, though, from this conversation that we think the town plan is one of the key pieces to be funded?
Yeah.
In addition, things,
It's gotta be funded somewhere, and if we can fund it through here.
right,
yeah.
I'll make sure it's reflected in the minutes.
yeah.
But yeah, on that, we would need to get a formal proposal
We
and
actually gotta
contract.
fill out the grant application and get the grant before we can even think about using the money. We're not there yet to say we have $20,000 for this.
Right,
Right, right.
just including it.
We're just,
Yeah, you need to have
We're coming
something
up
in
with
hand
the
before you
ideas.
go to contract.
yes. It's not like tomorrow we can say, yes, go on the town plan, because we don't have this money yet.
But Shane, you spoke to Chris and he told you that there's probably about 100,000 that might be available to the town?
He said, don't request more than 100,000. That was the quote.
I don't think there's any harm in
We
letting,
can go to contract if we don't have money
Yeah.
set aside.
We, once we do the grant application, we can throw the town plan in this application. But we haven't done that application yet, so we have no money yet. We're just discussing,
why haven't we done the
The MTEP
application
grant.
yet?
because Wyndham Regional has been waiting.
There's
to
no
figure out
application
everything.
process as of
The
yet.
whole process has been changing every week, it seems. More, it's getting broader and broader.
You've got everything.
So they've
These are the
they've
emails.
been waiting for us to get an idea of exactly what this funding is gonna go for and get someone to us to talk to us about.
Yeah.
And now it sounds like they're about there.
It seems like what Heather was looking for, she's got, that's kind of the application to the town to add to whatever
No.
else you want to. And from what I'm understanding, whether it's in a package or whether piecemeal, probably a package is part of it, yeah.
Waiting anxiously to find out from Wyndham Regional when their deadline is and what the format is for the application.
Yeah. So I guess Heather is just asking
To be considered.
when everything's put together and this is what they're requesting for the planning commission. And when that comes through, would the select board approve that?
Would the select board add that as
Or, yeah.
one of the named projects that
That's
we
the
would
request,
fund?
yeah. the funds.
I think we all agree we want to seek the
Yeah.
funds, whether we need that motion or not. It doesn't sound like
I
it.
don't think we need a motion yet, though. But we know that's part of something we want to put in there. If there's not funds somewhere else, we need funds for it.
Yep.
I'm okay with that.
Right. So 11D, modified 3/4/2024, decision to approve second-class liquor license, AGS Vermont Incorporated, doing business as Londonderry Village Market.
Well, they would all move down to the 11E at this point.
Well, I tried to
Yeah.
do the addition last year and it's A1.
Okay.
I don't know how.
I said it as A1.
Whatever it is, yeah,
I made it up as I went along.
sounds good.
I move to ratify the board's March 4th, 2024 decision to approve the second-class liquor license for AGS Vermont Incorporated, also known as the Londonderry Village Market, related to property located at 5700 Vermont Route 100, Suite A10.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
11E, ratify decision to approve tobacco license, AGS Vermont Incorporated, doing business as the Londonderry Village Market.
I move to ratify the board's 3/4/2024 decision to approve a tobacco license for AGS Vermont Incorporated, also known as the Londonderry Village Market, related to property located at 5700 Vermont Route 100, Suite A10.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 11F, Master Plan Task Force.
So again, Heather can't be here tonight, so the South Londonderry Master Planning Task Force, basically it's for the village plan. There's a group of individuals who express an interest in being a part of this task force. Their first meeting is scheduled for Thursday, March 21st, from 1 to 2. And we need to give them permission to form this task force, to give them enough time to get their meeting warned and have the meeting, and give the members who are hoping to participate enough time to make arrangements for that meeting.
Is task force the right name for them, or is it a committee, or does it matter?
It would be, technically, it would be a committee subject to the open meeting law, or subcommittee, whatever you want to call it.
Yes, but a task force, my understanding is that they don't have to fill out the same application like you do for a committee. Or maybe I'm incorrect.
I mean, that's just, that application is just to make life easier for the board to read and for people to consolidate thoughts and provide their, their,
Interest or information?
yeah,
That way
you
the
can do whatever
board
you
knows
want.
who's on the committee.
So,
Formal.
Because if there's
idea
someone
of
who,
exactly who's on the
if there's someone who people don't know, it's just an opportunity for them to say, these are my qualifications, this is what I've done in the past.
Yeah.
It's really for the board.
What did we require of the North Village plan?
So the planning commission took that on, it wasn't a.
well, the planning commission is taking this on also.
This one is a little different because smaller village, smaller term, shorter term, in the way that it's being put together with the help of Wyndham Regional. No, I'm sorry, it's not Wyndham Regional, it's Stevenson Associates, yet again. But because of the timing and for other reasons, it seemed like it needed to be compressed. And it takes a different, it's a different process that we're going through. Same outcome expected, but just, what is the wrap-up date, Larry, do you remember?
I don't remember exactly what.
You wanted to do it, the idea was to do it
6 months.
before the depths of summer.
Yeah.
To get it done for the next number of months.
Yeah, so they're fast tracking it.
You're fast tracking the membership sort of chute that people go through, is that right?
Well, the start of the contract, I believe, was delayed, so I pushed everything back.
Yes.
So what they want to do is try to keep within the timeline that they originally had. That's my correct
Yes,
understanding.
that is it.
And
Yes.
so, the approach was a little bit different in that the planning commission pretty much did the North Village all together, combined with Stevens. And this, I think the approach was to try to get some community members also involved. In addition to having a kind of a portion of the planning commission concentrate on this particular master plan. So that, I think, is the kind of the background. You can
Yeah,
correct me.
several people have already come forward who know the town well and are willing to walk around with our consultants and spend more time with them, perhaps, than the planning commission might have to do, considering everything else that's going on.
And if it's, because it is rushed, I mean, we can always, if you are willing, we can approve for this task force to happen so that the meeting can take place and then we can ratify it and everyone can get a look at all of the applications and at the next meeting. I just don't want to, I want to keep them on their timeline because it's already been delayed. And I really don't think there's anything weird going on here. I think it's really just a timing thing.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to be agreeable and then circle the wagons on April 1st and, you know, give it a stamp of legitimacy and approval. But this would allow this group to keep moving.
As you may remember, I joined this task force. We had a last minute I guess an informal meeting already that Heather put together with like the next day. And so and with Stevens, they really wanted to schedule. So officially the first meeting would be March 21st. And then we're going to do a committee meeting, a public meeting, committee meeting, and a public meeting, and a presentation to you guys by June 17th, ideally.
If it's a committee, they're all public meetings.
Yes,
Well, yeah, but I'm saying,
That's all I'm saying.
yeah.
yes,
But more of an outreach rather than,
the importance of
Working.
an action happening tonight was so that there would be enough time to warn the meeting properly.
Sounds good to me.
Yep, sounds good to me.
Just like to ask that this stuff be done more like it should be next time. I mean, I got an email about this probably almost sometime last week about forming this committee. No
Yeah.
date on it that I
I
remember.
think it's something last Thursday night.
Yeah, last Thursday night, so. it's just
So did you
better-
respond to that email and ask questions and get the ball moving? Because sometimes
No, 'cause I
with
know
everyone's
stuff
busy
like that.
lives and the fact that these are volunteer groups, things get lost. I mean, I'm pretty sure that I've had a couple emails in my box that I haven't responded to because
Well,
I'm pretty
I'm just
busy.
saying as the planning commission, do this in the right steps next time.
Well, so
Come to the board,
encourage
ask to do
them
it.
to do it the right way. I mean, you got
We
copied
have
on it
been-
too, Shane. You guys know how this works.
been
Help us.
encouraging-
Help us help you.
We've been encouraging people
Well,
to
you
do
see
that
until
since I've been on the
today,
board.
because I was away all weekend and
Well,
then work on Friday.
and you have a life. Super. But help us help you. Like, nobody wants to do it incorrectly. Everyone wants to do it properly.
Okay, all I'm saying is next time, let's do it properly.
I'd like to make a motion to form a South Dairy Master Planning Task Force. And they will bring, the Planning Commission will bring the members of the meeting to their applications to the April 1st Select Board meeting.
Are there members that they're appointing?
There
Apparently, there's
are.
members already on it.
There are. Would
Should
you like
be-
me to,
Well, I'm
would
just
you like me
saying,
to list them for the record?
Be on it.
well, I'm just saying if you don't, then they can't be on it.
Okay.
Because you have to appoint them.
The task force includes Bruce Frauman, Elsie Smith, Jamie Foley, Emmett Dunbar, Mimi Lines, Paul Hendler, and Sharon Crossman? Yes, no? That's a maybe.
Yeah, it is a name. It's a
Okay.
hard time, if necessary.
An alternate, Sharon Crossman.
There you go.
Do you need a second to that?
Second.
I'm just thinking we haven't appointed any of these people yet, so it shouldn't be an official meeting until they are appointed to the task force by the select board.
Well, that's what the vote is.
Isn't that what this vote
So
is?
the vote is to appoint them, all right?
And then
And it
we'll,
gets
we'll ratify.
Yeah, once we get their credentials or whatever.
well, it's, yeah, by your own rules, it comes into effect once you vote on it, and it just gets ratified. That's all.
All those in favor?
Hi,
Aye.
thank you.
Moving on to item 12, new business, 12A, follow-up discussion on 2024 town meeting. Follow-up discussion.
It was a good meeting.
What?
We had 173 people who checked in.
How many?
173.
Was that a record? No. but-
Nice to have the young people back in the,
Yeah, that wasn't including all the kids.
that was great.
Yeah.
And the voting seamlessly done through the basement?
Actually, I've gotten some feedback about that, which is probably important for the town hall planning committee to hear. So the voting in the basement was really good from a space perspective. It freed up a lot of room upstairs. It allowed for a lot more space for people who were voting. So that part of it went really well. But from a few people who have some mobility issues, those stairs are not great. And the back door, the outside approach to the door isn't great. The door itself, we had to continually kind of push open so people could come into the door from the outside, and yet it would constantly be pulled shut. So a new door there that is more
And the mud
user.
puddle at the back.
Right, that's, the approach to the door is not,
There was
right,
a lane.
not something to be proud of. The door is problematic. The ramp at the back door and the stairs at the back door are fine, but the stairs between the upper floor and the basement are not
Is there no,
user-friendly.
is there a landing there where you could put a voter booth there for people who couldn't go down the stairs, or that just messes up the
So
whole
you
system?
can't, from a
ADA.
sort of, well, ADA, but also like ballot security standpoint.
Yeah.
The polling place needs to be a contained place where we can track every ballot going in and not leaving. 'Cause
Yeah.
we don't actually want them to leave. So you can't really have separate spaces. And I think in general, for the use of the town hall and demographics of our community, doing something to make getting between the two levels of the building more user-friendly would be
Like a stair lift or something?
a stair lift, or or just a lift. I don't know exactly what the answer is. Also heard some feedbacks about the bathrooms from an ADA compliance standpoint, and that having one ADA compliant bathroom is better than having two not. So, again, heard that from, a couple of people, and regardless of the space being used as a polling place, that's good feedback for everyone to hear and hopefully act on. Just if we hope that the community is going to use that space more often
Yeah.
for more things, for everyone to be able to use, I think those are two things that ought to be addressed in future
I agree.
planning and.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
So,
Access to the back door, I think especially, because there is a
Yeah.
ramp there, but getting back there
The
is.
door also
yeah, but it's
opens the wrong way.
also, so what, part of what, one of the things that happened a couple of times, the day of, is people would come in to the main floor and, kind of like, oh gosh, I'm gonna assess the stairs, and we would say, well, you can also go use the back door, which is more user-friendly, but for someone with mobility issues, you're also asking them to leave the building,
Right.
walk around the
Right.
building, and,
Yeah.
you know, so,
There may be something with signage that you could do. Is to
yeah,
direct
and
people
that was
so
something we talked about, was
Yeah.
that better signage is absolutely a part of what we would have to do in the
Yeah,
future.
yeah.
But it just, you know, simply asking someone to exit the building
Yeah.
to go use another door that may or may not be locked, that may or may not be a mud puddle to get through, to get into it.
Absolutely,
Just,
yeah.
Not to mention the parking lot, just
I know,
walking
the
through.
parking lot was like a mud
We
bog.
need
by
to
the
talk
way.
about paving that parking
Yeah,
lot.
when I left after counting votes,
Yeah.
you could barely get to your car.
I was afraid your car wasn't gonna get out.
It was dicey. Sleeping in that, I didn't hurt anyone getting out of the parking lot, but.
It was deep.
It was right,
But
but,
there were also people that didn't want to go walk through the crowd to walk down the stairs
Yeah.
to vote. So
Right.
they said,
So-
is there another way I can get in?
Right,
Even
right,
they
so-
were mobile, but.
so all access points really need improvement and signage
Right.
needs to be
How to
improved.
get
But, and again, regardless of how the polling place might be set up, getting between the main floor and the basement is not a user-friendly experience.
If you had use of the balcony, would the amount of chairs up there taken care of the chairs you would replace if you put the polling in the front lobby again?
No.
No, okay.
Well, the problem is noise too.
Right.
When the
Yeah.
polling was in the lot, like,
Yeah.
you couldn't, the people in the back couldn't hear what was happening because there was checking in
The
and conversation that's
yeah.
happening to,
Yeah.
so that was an improvement.
Yes.
For sure.
There were some aspects of it that were definitely
Yeah.
improved, but we saw
Yeah.
Yeah.
struggle in more than a handful of cases, and I got feedback from some people after the fact.
That's
So,
good to know.
Good.
We're meeting this week, so.
It's a good segue.
Talk about that.
yeah, thank you.
Any further discussion about town meeting?
Huh?
I said, any further discussion about town meeting?
We gave notice to the Department of Taxes about the vote on the meals and alcohol tax, so that should be coming into effect July 1st.
Sweet.
Alright, nothing else, we'll move on. 12B, Town Office Renovation Project, discuss bidding process.
Well, we're looking to go out to bid beginning on Wednesday. The ad will be in the newspaper. And what we're asking people to do, it might be a little bit different, but to go through the architect, because it's a very technical project. We want to make sure people know exactly what's going on. We do, sorry I'm chewing, but I'm chewing. But we also wanted them to have a bid bond, so if you're gonna bid on it, you're gonna put up 5% of your bid. And so that kind of weeds out some folks who wouldn't normally be bidding on something like this. We want to make sure we've got some qualified folks that do it. We do have a list of firms that will send it directly, just the advertisement to, but not all the plans. So if you want plans, you have to get them digitally through the architect. And so what I put together is a motion, is kind of just different variances from our standard process. Yeah, we don't normally have a bid bond, and the other things I've described. So. But we're really excited to get going on it. We're gonna meet tomorrow afternoon to go over some of the exterior lighting. There's some pole lights and some bollard lights. We got a mock-up of what the ramp is gonna look like out front, which is gonna be,
Really nice.
yeah, it should be nice. And good safety lighting throughout. We're talking about locks, interior, some security features. So it should be interesting. I had a discussion, anyway, there's just this week on additional funding sources for the project, and it wasn't really helpful to meet with this person from the Vermont Housing Conservation. We've already, everything that they had recommended, we'd already looked into. So.
We are gonna be looking for help cleaning out the basement, potentially.
Well, I'm sure we can throw a lot out.
Yeah, we need to get a shredder.
The
Just
five
hire a
seven-
dumpster and storage unit,
storage.
potentially.
No, definitely.
Yeah,
There's stuff.
there's stuff that's down there that's
gonna
gonna be stored while we're constructing.
Or you should just hire one of the big shredding trucks to come.
Well, it can't all go, so I need to physically.
Right, you have to sort it, but then the stuff that you can't, don't sit
Yeah,
there
yeah,
and
that's what
really
we're
feed
gonna
it.
There's a lot of cleaning that has to be done. My office, listers, everybody's got, some stuff that it's a good opportunity to clean house.
We're gonna have to have something temporary to work in.
Right.
The 5% security, do we pay them interest on this money?
It's just gonna be a short amount of time. It's just during the bid, the process, we're not gonna cash it or anything like that. And, as soon as the board awards a contract, it gets returned. Unopened, there's no reason to open it,
Okay.
other than to verify them. So I would, if you would, I've recommended some changes, adjustments to the bid process.
Can you vote on it?
If you would, it'd be great.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to, it would be helpful.
I it is a bid. I move to adjust the town's approved bid process as follows. Do I need to read it all?
Yep.
Sure. Okay, bid documents will only be made available digitally with no hard copies of bid documents. 2, bid documents will only be provided to the project architects to ensure that any bid addenda are distributed equally. 3, there will be a mandatory pre-bid meeting. 4, a bid security of 5% of the bid amount will be required. 5 or 6, bids will be opened publicly by staff, and a bid tabulation will be provided afterward to the select board for its consideration and contract award.
Second.
All those.
All those in favor?
Aye.
12C, annual appointments, planning commission.
Marianne Morris and Sharon Crossman each have expressed interest in the appointment. And Sharon provided application today, which you have.
Yep. I move to appoint Marianne Morris and Sharon Crossman to the Planning Commission, each for a 3-year term ending 3/31/2027.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And one last one, who wants it?
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. All right, Darrell, you've done so good for me.
Are we gonna get